Hey, this is Brent.
Hey, this is Jordan.
What's up? This is Matt.
Hey, this is Sean.
And this is the Digital Ascent Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming to Digital Ascent again. We have myself, Sean, Matt, and Brent. Jordy is sick with pneumonia, so any thoughts, prayers, good vibes that you can send his way would be appreciated. That's why he is not here today. But we've got an interesting episode, at least what we think to be an interesting episode. It's going to be focused on the layoffs and the tech sphere as a whole as far as the job market is concerned. So we'll be having a discussion. It's not really official. You didn't see me do the air quotes, but I did them. It's more just talking about the general feel we have for it and going through some statistics that we've found. But starting us off will be Matt with a current event. So, Matt, would you take us away, sir?
Okay. I mean, if you can call it a current event, mostly I just want to take a moment and soapbox about some of like the hobbying I've been doing with the AI stuff.
Sure.
You know.
Are you currently doing it?
Yeah. Like,
all right, so it's a current event, baby.
Yeah, there we go. As recent as 5 minutes prior to us starting this episode, I've been tinkering away. Pretty current.
Very current.
Yeah, very current. All right. So AI stuff is cool in my opinion. ChatGPT is cool in my opinion. The stuff we can do with is very cool. You know what's not cool is that whenever I use it, somebody else has my data and they're reading my questions and feeding it back into their little machine, and that's not very cool. So I decided it would be better to start running those things locally, and with the help of one of my friends who I'm not necessarily going to blast the name, but you know who you are. I've got some of these things running locally, and so at this point I'm on my laptop on my home machine. I have a language model running locally. I have it running as like a server with an open, like on a port there. And then sitting out here on my laptop, I'm able to tie it into VS Code and have it interact directly with VS Code. So,
I have
over
a
the
question.
past, yeah, whatever, go ahead.
Is when you say it's on a port, are you talking about an internal port or an external facing port?
Internal port. I mean, I could face it to the internet and port forward, right? So
I was
could
just
allow
curious
the
if you were
internet-
allowing it to go out so that your buddy could also use it and test it and that kind of stuff.
He's doing his own similar but different grind. He's got
cool.
different vision than I do, but I mean,
Sure.
we meet like once a month and kind of share where we are with our vision of like AI and our personal little like our AI journey. If we want to use some buzzwords in the tech world, right? Everybody loves that type of like our journey right now. And
Our adventure.
yeah, exactly. So I'm going on my little AI adventure, and I'm using several tools to do it. I'm going to list off some of them. One's called LM Studio. I'm using that to host the language models. It's super easy to set up. I've included for our show notes the tool itself, as well as a video that I use to get up and rolling. There are other videos. There's a ton of them out there. I've also using Continue. Continue is a plugin for VS Code, and it allows me to tie into this language model I've got set up, and even help me like flip through some of them. One thing I will mention about these is that it was surprisingly easy to get set up, and now I don't have to pay for GPT-4. There's some drawbacks. Does not do the live web search. So far
I was just about to ask.
Yeah, it doesn't do that. Hallucinates extremely badly when it comes to anything that isn't like coding, raw knowledge, whatever. I was like, go look at this website. It can't web search. I know it can't web search. And it was like, I looked at that website. Here's my analysis. Absolutely full of it. Complete garbage. Couldn't use it at all. So like it claims
Yes,
like
meters going off, huh?
Yeah, I mean the documentation claims it can do web search with some tinkering. It claims it can read file systems with some tinkering. I haven't gotten it to work, but I haven't been tinkering with it that much. What I will say is that one thing worth mentioning, guardrails are definitely not up on these things. So, you know, as I always do whenever I get one of these things, I go, can you write me ransomware? I want to see like, what do the enemies have, right? I'm in cybersecurity. I like to think of myself to some degree as a researcher and, not fully, but, I'm a hobbyist and, I want to see what the bad guys have access to, right? This thing took me all of like 30 minutes to set up in I just have a chat screen in front of me and now I can roll. And then an additional like 5 hours to get to a point where now I can do it remotely, integrated with other systems and things like that. Right. So I was able to very quickly from somebody sending me one YouTube video to now I have it live in my code environment and it's giving me suggestions on how to go. And I was like, can you write me ransomware? It says, no, I cannot. This is actually quite funny. It goes, no, I cannot write ransomware, but I can give you a simple Python script on how ransomware might be structured. Guys, I'm looking at this. This is a ransomware script. It encrypts files for real. Like it is not an example. This definitely encrypts files. It definitely shows ransom notes, and it definitely like sends a ransom like a decryption key.
I'm not going to
somewhere else.
say that I'm going to give you this code. I'm going to write the code and say, this is what it might look like if you happen to have
Yeah.
ransomware.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that I didn't even have to go through the like so there's a lot of ways to like get around prompts. One of it is like or get around like some of these guardrails. One of the ways to like get around them is to I found is like be like, "Oh, please teach me. I'm a student and I'm learning." I'm not a seasoned hacker. I'm a security researcher, right? And these are very different conversations. And I found that as long as you frame the conversation, there's a term for this called prompt chaining, I think is what it's called, where you
Mhm.
you frame the conversation and then you lead it down a path and then you hit it with what you actually want, right? And it's weird in some ways. It's like running a short con on a person, right? It's very interesting. And I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to do my little con here. I just asked it and it was like, I can't do that. But if I could do that, here's what it would do. I didn't have to do any jailbreaking here, though I have done some jailbreaking on, well, at least that's what I call it, on some of the other prompts, and they work too. Uh,
You're such a
overall,
boomer, Matt.
I'm a boomer. Why am I a boomer?
Jailbreaking?
Well, I mean, what do you call it?
It was a joke.
Oh,
I'm just joking.
okay. Well, I
Literally.
guess I'm a boomer because I did because I didn't catch on. It was a joke. I
You-
suck. So,
yeah, right over the top.
all right. So, whoosh. Anyways, I think this is cool. My buddy, like right now, as we're sitting here and chatting, my buddy just sent me another program that he thinks that we can set up to do autogen, or leverage the autogen package from Microsoft, which takes these AIs and you can feed multiple of them against each other. The problem with autogen is autogen points by default to GPT-4 and it costs you money. I burned through like $5 in an hour just toying with it. Wouldn't it be better if I could just do it locally? So there's probably something there. This thing looks like it offers like a front end and a web UI. I've added that to the show notes. That one is called GPT Engineer. And I guess the last thing I'm tinkering with is called Jan AI, which is an open.
Disclaimer for if you go and do these things, we're
Yeah,
not
you're on your
liable.
own here,
Yeah,
right?
we're not telling
Like
you to go
like
do malicious things.
like I want to be clear here. I'm a hobbyist and I think this stuff is cool. And my expectation is that you're not going to go do malicious things, right? Like the audience here is not for malicious hackers, right? The audience that here is for, ideally white hats or hobbyists or, security researchers or IT professionals, people who need to understand what's available to people who are even a little interested in this stuff and who are we fighting and competing against. I guess that's my view of my cybersecurity hat on. And I don't know that I thought this was really cool. I thought people would like to know that this is really, really, really accessible stuff. You do not need, I mean, like it helps having a Billy Badass Kit PC, but I still haven't even got my graphics card. Yeah, I've got, a decent graphics card. I don't even have my graphics card in the mix yet. And it's responding to me in a totally appropriate time period. So this is accessible for you. If you think this is cool, I recommend going to check it out. Please hit me in the Discord. Shoot me a DM if you want some like guidance or to know how I got in the weeds or like
Slide
how I
into
think it
them
works.
DMs.
Yeah, boy or girl, whatever. I don't really care, Like the point is I think this is cool. I'm happy to share knowledge here. And, I encourage you to look at it. As we're talking about, like the job market stuff later in the episode, I think that what I'm doing, I'm just gonna get, put a little drop in there that I think the stuff that I'm doing and experimenting with right now is stuff that will help, set me apart and make me more marketable in the future. And I guess I can talk more about like why I think that and what specifically I think that I'm personally researching and what skill sets I'm developing that I think personally will help me. But whatever. All right, that's my spiel. Do you guys have any like questions or I don't know? You guys curious at all? I don't know.
I might follow up with you just to, check some of that stuff out.
Yeah, cool stuff. It'll be in the show notes.
I had set up at one point an art AI where I could go in like generative art and
What you got like
it
stable diffusion running or
yeah,
something?
stable diffusion.
Yeah. Hey, was that hard?
And no, not really. Once I started realizing what it was asking for, I just had
Yeah,
to
that's
watch a
the
couple
hard part.
YouTube videos. Once I knew what it was asking for, then it was cake. It was mostly just finding the right things and making sure I wasn't going to inject a malicious piece of code into my rig.
Mm.
that's
Yep. Software bill of
that's
materials is really important.
so that was vetting it was really the hardest part. After that, it was not too bad. But no, it was great. I mean, it did everything that I asked it to and relatively well. And then once I started Googling prompting and how to learn its language, air quotes
Mm-hmm.
again,
Yep.
I
It's really
started like
important.
it started pushing even further the
Mm-hmm.
amount of production value out of that art that I was getting. It was really, really wild and really cool to see. And I ran it on my computer. Now, that I will say, the graphics side is a little bit more load heavy.
Yeah, hurts, huh?
Um, yeah, it hurts a little bit longer, and especially when you just start doing multiple iterations. So the higher count of images that you try to produce, those it increases resources obviously. But it was wild to see what I could feed it, and you could feed it base images and say do XYZ to it and make it
Yep.
look in 4K and do all this shenanigan work with it, and it handled it like a champ. It was
Does
really
it
surprising. So
have guardrails? So like you go to Dolly right now, you go to Dolly, and so I've done this. I went to Dolly, I handed it a picture, and I was like, make this picture in this type of format and make it like a coloring. It was a request from my kids. Right. They wanted to, take a picture of themselves and make themselves prince and princesses and,
right.
make it coloring. And it was and Dolly was like, dog, this is a picture of real people. I'm not gonna do that. And then it gave me a list of reasons why that's not like ethical, basically. And then among other
No.
opinions.
My experience with it. Now, I didn't really do anything explicit or
Yeah. No, I mean
questionable
like
with it,
this
but
wasn't explicit either, right? Like this was
oh no. What I'm saying is, along that vein, I didn't really push that limit because it wasn't.
okay.
I was using it for my D&D campaign, generating
Oh,
characters.
yeah, see, man,
So it.
I always just want to push the limits with these things and see how far like I want to be clear, there are limits I do not want to push, right? But like I always want to see how far like will it write ransomware? Will it write phishing emails? Will it do copyrighted materials,
Yeah.
things like that, right?
No, I didn't push that limit, but my guess is probably not because if it's localized to your system, I don't know. I'd have to go back and play with it.
Yeah.
So I don't, not
Right.
100% sure on it. But anyway, it sounds a lot like this, where it's becoming more and more accessible
Yeah, it
for
really is.
AI to infiltrate into everyday life. And I use infiltrate sort of specifically, but
It's a good word.
it certainly is relevant to the topic today, though, which is kind of why I'm glad you brought it up. So, Brent, did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
No, I am going to add a link because I know we're going to put out, the sources and credits and all that good stuff. And we got like a little tools section. I also added an AI image upscaler that I found a while back. That is incredibly handy.
Nice.
But speaking to that same point of like you said, infiltrated into your everyday life or infused or whatever terminology you want to use. If you've got like some old pictures that are incredibly low res that also kind of need to be repaired in the process, this tool is quite amazing. I mean, it'll take a thumbnail essentially and make it a full size image, like a 40 megapixel image. And
Wow,
it
that's
looks
pretty slick.
really, really good. Like
So
it
I've
depends on
actually
what
got
it
some
is,
photos that I would like to do that with. I've got some digital
it's pretty
iterations
powerful.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Hey,
really powerful. I
cool.
encourage you guys to download it and check it out.
So, Sean, do you think Stable Diffusion could do that?
I didn't
Do you think
about using it as an
do you think
upscaling
it
tool.
could?
I mean, you can upload any picture and say turn this into a 4K resolution,
There you go.
and it will try. So
It's
theoretically,
just
yes.
so cool. All this is so freaking cool, man. Like it. Wow.
Yeah, the big point here with this tool though is like you download it and you use it. So for the people that
I like
don't
that.
want to tinker, you want like a out of the box open source.
Install it, go.
Yeah, just like a free tool. It's pretty nutty how good it is.
That's pretty slick. And that's the thing too is
Wow.
you know,
That's
they're
impressive.
packaging it now in a way that's more and more accessible. So like
accessible, and
think
there's
about it
lots
this
of
way.
options.
My sons now, actually I just had a kid. But they will grow up not knowing a world without AI.
Oh yeah,
Yep, very true.
absolutely. Yeah, it's coming to schools, and it's coming to schools.
Oh
in
yeah,
my
quick.
opinion, soon.
And what I'm
Real
going to use,
soon.
I'm going to use it for his education.
As
Sit
you
here
should.
with this history teacher AI and learn.
Yep.
Have a conversation about this subject. Here's your prompts. Go. Because that's like, why can't you? With some fact checking, right? Once it gets, because you're talking about by the time he's hitting high school or, middle school, who knows what
Wow.
AI will look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, by the time my kids are hitting high school, I mean, this stuff is wild. And, I just want to take a moment and remind everybody, and just like take a moment, take a beat. Remember, most people never heard GPT, of any variety before November last year, right? Or year before last, sorry. And, this came out of what I feel like nowhere. And then suddenly ChatGPT was available, and bang, a year and a quarter later, we're talking about running things locally, and we're talking about, um, really, I mean, I feel like getting personalized stuff in play here. Like this is a very personal situation that I've got running here, where I'm going to be able to create very, like AI assistants that are accessible to me and only me via, my phone or other computers or whatever. No longer do I have to feed my data to, Big Papa Microsoft. And
mhm.
yeah, and at this point it's like I remember it was like a year ago now when I really started using ChatGPT, and I had this coding task that I had done, and it was a really simple coding task, but I don't want to say really simple, but like I knew what I needed to do, and I was like, okay, this is like an 8 to 12 hour task. And for those of you who don't know me super well, like I'm really, really good at predicting how long is the task going to take. I mean, Sean and Brent, I'm sure
He
will
really
say,
is. It's
yeah,
kind of crazy.
yeah, I can get pretty close. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's usually pretty accurate. And I know 8 to 12 hours sounds like a big window, but this is like while I'm sitting there in the planning stage, and within 4 hours I'll know whether it's going to be 8 or going to be 12, right? You got to start somewhere. I went to ChatGPT with the task, And instead of spending 8 hours, I'd booked an entire day of it. I spent, I think it was 20 minutes chatting with it and produced the code. I spent an additional 20 minutes realizing that I had written the wrong pseudocode and needed to refine it, and tinkered with it. And within an hour, I had working script. Within 2 hours, I had meaningful output. And my guess is that it would have been 8 hours for working script and then 12 hours for meaningful output, where I was like, oh, well, that doesn't really work the way, as you get the output, you still have to go back and make sure it's actually the output you want, right? Sometimes asking that question of what do I want isn't always, you get it on the first try. I mean, it was amazing. It literally saved me an entire day of work almost. I mean, probably did save me a day of work if you include the error checking that I was talking about, making sure I really got the output I wanted. And I've been able to repeat that several times since then. I mean, I don't know. AI is wild stuff. I mean, it's why we're having the conversation we're having today about AI and the job market, and our thoughts on it, and so on and so on and so forth. So, I don't know. I guess it's a pretty solid segue. Unless
That's
Sean,
a really
you
great
wanted to add
segue. I was
something.
about to
Yeah.
congratulate you. I was sitting here like, wonder how we're gonna stop this flow.
Yeah.
But
I
you
feel
just
like
carried
that.
it on down the river.
Yeah. I mean, like this.
Look at
This is
that.
it. This is the conversation. So, Sean, with that, is it? Can I just keep the ramble going for a moment? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, no, I mean,
Okay. Cool.
I
I know
think we've
what you're thinking. All right.
solidly moved into the territory of.
So, all right. So here are my thoughts on this. So today we want to talk about the job market, in tech, and for those who haven't been paying attention, job market in tech's been a little weird past year, and by weird I mean uncomfortable. There's been just a
Mhm.
lot of layoffs basically across the board. I'm gonna throw out some big names for you, real quick. Real quick: Google, Microsoft, Malwarebytes, Fortinet, Rapid7, SecureWorks, and there's been a bunch more. I think Buzz. I don't have the list in front of me. Somebody else will have to pull it up and supplement me at some point in
Twitch,
time.
Unity,
Thank you.
a whole bunch of them. Yep.
Did you
Yeah.
say Amazon, Qualcomm, Meta, Alphabet,
Mm-hmm.
Cisco, like
Mm.
Oracle, Red Hat?
Yeah,
Like,
you see what I'm talking about? So
yeah, the
it's
the
been
list
it's
keeps
been
going.
yeah. So it's been, the point is that it's been a hard year for jobs in the tech field. Now it's important to know not all of these are tech jobs. So Rapid7, for instance, bled 18% of their staff, but the overwhelming majority of that was in the middle management category, not the tech category. So we shouldn't necessarily. So I feel like for me, this is the first point I wanted to bring up, is that we shouldn't necessarily equate trouble in the tech center with trouble in tech jobs. So,
No, no.
I heard some unverified rumors that the that Rapid7 did lay off a ton of their employees. I mean, that's definitely verified. Nothing unverified about that. But and that the I guess the unverified part is that it was the middle management that was laid off, and that the plan is to replace them with tech staff. So, you know, I mean, to me, that reads. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I know. We just got done saying that there was a bunch of jobs, that a bunch of people who fired a bunch of people, but I still think I see some strength in the job market, and for tech people. And I don't know. I guess that's where we'll start. And there's lots more to talk about. What is AI? Let's talk about. I would like to touch on the current geopolitical situation here. Um, at some point in time. And I don't know, I'll just, drop it there though and let somebody else pick up the ramble.
No, I think you made a good point about not overly equating the layoffs to specifically in the tech market. It's not that
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
there.
My
It's
homies in sales got terrible things to say about the sales market, but guess what? Sales aren't tech. Like,
yep.
sales are in tech, but you know, they're not doing systems administration or programming. They're doing sales. So
Right.
it's not the same
It,
thing.
it's not. I think it's more the reasoning behind, and that's something I want to dive into.
Yeah, me
Is
too.
is it necessarily, again, this is a conversation we've had before with AI, but specifically in the market in general, is we have the consumer version of AI currently, What
Mm-hmm.
is it that's behind the closed doors that these, between, what is it, between Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and I think there's one more, the big four, Apple. There's like four
Apple
point.
is nothing so far. Okay, hold on. Let's just pause for a
No,
second
no, no,
on
no, no.
that.
Well, let me finish my
Apple's
set.
got
Let me finish my sentence before you start
okay.
going off. There's like
Sorry.
4 point something trillion dollars that they have. So you can't tell me that there's not things in the wings
I
for
agree.
supplementing staff and seeing how it goes. Because, I mean, now you have software engineers and hardware engineers that put the AI specific to their business, and it crunches their data in whatever meaningful way is necessary for them. And then all of a sudden you start going, ooh, well, it is actually working. And now we just have a few people to verify and double check some stuff, and then off to the races. So what I've read and seen is that a lot of this is geared towards revamp. So they're revamping from post-pandemic situations where the job market was hyperinflated for needed resources, and so there's some cutback there. But then there's also this AI push, which is, I think, the beginning of a new wave, not necessarily replacement, but a shift. I think you still need the human element for certain things, but for procedural or back end work, you're going to see a lot of those jobs, in my opinion, start to be tested with AI. Can they do the job? Is it consistent? Do we have to pay people? Can we just pay to maintain the system and then pay to have the people that need to maintain it for us? And then now we've decreased our overall spending. That seems pretty logical to me.
Like the Duolingo cuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Duolingo is a app slash company that focuses on uh like multi language training, right? And they cut a bunch of their workforce. Why do they cut a bunch of their workforce? So I think it looks like 10% of their contractors is what I'm seeing in this Bloomberg.com article. Why do they do it? Because they, instead of replacing them with AI, and the plan is that they're going to let AI, do a bunch of like the translation and generative work, and just let the humans come in behind it. I gotta say, for the record, I don't love decisions like this. I think humans are like particular like I don't know what it is about the human condition, but they're really poor at error checking work. And I think that I personally would have rather seen that done the other way, where humans
Mm.
do the work and then the AI's done, and then the AI's error check it or the AI supplement it. Some of this is rumor and conjecture, right? So,
Always,
like,
always.
look, I'm not, hey, I want to be clear. I'm not on the board of Duolingo. Okay. I don't know for sure what's
Do
going,
you have some
what's going
insider
on over
there?
there. Right. I
Insider
got no,
knowledge on that?
no insider knowledge here. I'm just saying these are the rumors I've personally seen. I don't know. The AI is definitely not, as we're talking about, what can and can't AI do. It's important to remember this is still emerging technology, and there's a bunch of things it can't do.
Absolutely.
And it's worth noting that as I talked about the local language models that have been running, they are terrible at hallucination. I mean, look, ChatGPT will hallucinate and lie and do it with authority and be like, I can't believe that you would challenge me on that. Work with ChatGPT enough. Eventually you will get to a point where it basically says something like that to you, where it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is how it is. That's the end of it. And it's wrong. And it's wrong because you have a brain and it's just a bunch of, not a brain. I don't know. And, but these local models, they lie. And you're going to be like hard pressed in businesses to really move these things internally to businesses, right? Like, how do you really take advantage of this as a business? You do not want your data going back into the system. Getting an OpenAI contract through Azure is incredibly expensive. I heard this as a rumor. I heard a rumor that you got to commit 100K a year. or something for that to like get your hands on something like that. That's incredible. So much money.
Yeah. But depending on the company, it's not.
Yes. Well, yes, I know, but I mean that's a lot of that's a lot of money, right? Like
Okay, but
what else
100K,
could you
you're talking about. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
look, all I'm saying is that not every company can afford to do that. And if you're a smaller company, what do you do? And how do you take advantage of this? And how do you really drive AI into like the real question, the conversation that we're having here is how is AI going to ruin our job market? I mean, that's a facet of the conversation, right? Or is it going to ruin our job market? And what
I
I'm
think that's
saying,
a better question. Is
yeah,
it going
is
to
it
ruin
going
the
to
job market?
and I guess the conclude like once again, I'm coming in, I'm going, I guess I don't know, I don't really see it. Right? There's a bunch of tools that are going to get augmented, but like, is it going to ruin my job market as a cybersecurity professional? I don't know, man. Like I can like I feel like there's always more work that I could do if I can if I can have AI help me with 25% of my job. Congratulations. I just got 20 like I just got a whole new slot of work that I get to do on a week over week basis, if that makes sense. And
I
um
think my concern with it, though, is
I don't
not
know.
so much the initial impact, but the slow
Mhm.
creep. Because while, yes, there's a bunch of job layoffs currently, and while a lot of them aren't necessarily tech related, they're, again, like we've said in other, other podcasts, it's more so that societal adoption and
Mhm.
with it becoming ever more the norm. What does that look like in a 10, 15 year, 20, 30-year span? Because it's not going to stay the way it is. In the immediate term, I don't think it's really going to be that terrible. I think this is an adjustment based on not only just AI, but other market factors, high interest rates, economic disturbances, wars, all sorts of things, right? There's many, 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 many contributing factors, but it's also the tech companies, which are typically on cutting edge or trying to be to maintain that competitiveness. They are going to try and push the envelope. And if they can, like you said, imagine, you get 25% back. Now you do that across
Mhm.
the entirety of your organization. If you can feed it in
Yeah.
properly and get that
That
sort of result, now you're
suddenly
talking
100K
about
is cheap.
100K is absolutely more than worth that investment,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And some of these companies are investing way, way more, like unparalleled amounts into this sector of productivity. So it's like, okay, well, what does that iteration look like, a decade from now? Because, like Matt said, within what, like November of last year,
Not last year. 2022.
2022. Sorry, it was 2022.
Yep.
Even
I know.
still,
Welcome to the new year, baby.
I know,
I
man.
know. It's still hard, man.
Having a
Nobody look
kid
at
has
any of my
absolutely
documentation.
trashed my sense of time. I don't even
I
know what
bet it
day it is
has.
half the time.
Yeah.
Um, Anyway, so in 2022, look at how far we've come. Look at how much accessibility everybody has. So now and again, look at how much it's permeated in such a short
Mm-hmm.
period of time. And this is not even the maxed out version. This is what we as consumers have. So for me,
Yeah.
it's
This is
not.
guardrails.
This is guardrail,
Guardrail. All
right?
guardrail version. Yeah.
Correct. So
Some of it not very guardrailed, as I discussed earlier. Not hard for that to
right,
fall right
right.
on off. Whoa.
Yeah, well, and
Yep.
that's the tricky part is, well, what do you do with that? And we're starting to see some impacts, maybe not the big swinging impacts that we expected, but I mean they're still pretty big in my opinion. You're cutting out middle management here for some stuff. Okay, well, that's one thing, but I mean
Not necessarily AI related,
not
man.
not
There
necessarily
are other
AI
look, there
related.
are other rumors there that I'm not going to discuss on the
I know.
podcast.
Again, it's conjecture. Look, even statistics, right, can always be biased. What I'm saying is it's not unfeasible for it to be a reason.
It's not, but I don't think it is. I mean, honestly, well, I mean, I would I want once again just kind of like thinking big picture, and let's just say the rumors. I am willing to discuss the ones being that they're reinvesting in their engineering workforce. You know, my my hope is that they're investing in AI to churn log sets and things like that. For those who haven't seen the Microsoft Sentinel demo with ChatGPT as as your co-pilot, I think is how they branded it, or running as co-pilot. I don't remember the branding, whatever. It's amazing though. The it was a quick demo. They go, you have a threat that pulls up the data about the user, and into the little chat box, the demo person types in, um when show me logins from non-US sources or anonymous logins from not the US, and it goes, this person logged in from Germany for the first time on this date and time, and yada yada yada. And then there's these other four ones from different countries as well. And for those of you who don't spend your life in a sim system, that's amazing, just in being able to be like, show me the first login of a non-US within 30
Oh,
days or something
it's
like that.
critical,
It's
especially when you're
amazing.
trying to feed information into an auditor that comes in that's looking for these types of things, and you're
Man,
trying to prove
what
legal recourse and insurance.
what about during an incident when time really matters? Because if I can't ask that question, instead I have to design a query where this, field is equaling
Sure.
that type of result. And for that I have to memorize, what is the log set?
Mhm.
What is, the the key I'm looking for, and what is the value I am or am not looking for. If I'm really good, I have that all memorized. If not, I have to do something broader and then refine based on what I'm seeing. And instead, if I can just go, show me this data and then throw it on another screen and let it churn away and go and start doing something else, and then come back in 15 seconds and have it all analyzed for me in a human readable format, that's amazing. That just saved me 15 minutes in an incident where if you can catch it and stop it in the first hour, you've minimized your damage. So, I mean, like, you want did I now want to once again, I want to focus back on the jobs things. Did I replace a job by having this AI assistant here? Is there another, like, could I instead have had a SOC analyst sit here next to me and do that query while I'm looking at this other information? I mean, maybe, but
Not as
realistically,
quickly.
there's no way this person could have done this anywhere near as quickly and ideally thoroughly, right? And a bunch of other things. Also, that person may be sitting there unused if I only need this burstable resource in this one instance, right? So just, did I replace a job? Not really. Did I make a single person or entity more powerful and extend their capabilities? Absolutely, yes. And I would argue, and if you've spoken to me a lot, you already know I feel this way. I would argue that AI in a lot of cases is in some cases is definitely replacing jobs, but not in every case. In some cases, it is merely in allowing a current resource to not necessarily even do more, but like be better, if that makes sense. Like, I don't.
Okay, but on the
There's
flip
a lot
side,
there. I don't know.
what stops it from iterating to the point where it can do those things? Again, we're looking at
Sure,
current
maybe,
iteration, and
yeah, sure, maybe.
it's not. Again, I'm trying to think about the long term here as well, because if you take that same sentiment where it can evolve to the point where it no longer needs the human factor to be sure of itself, because you can run into AI networking where they could simultaneously
Yep.
talk to one another. They're built off of each other. They have their own little commune. They discuss things, fact check, and go about their business.
Well,
Well,
AI hive mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically,
I
is
mean, that's
what.
the dream in the end, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interconnectedness in a way that it
Yeah.
can process data in a correct manner with checks and balances so that you're getting the best possible result with the least amount of error. And so,
Yeah, there's
I
something
mean,
there.
at some point, that's
We're
going to be
not
a
there yet.
reality. No, we are
Yeah,
not there yet.
we're
But
not we're not there yet. I don't know.
what
You
a,
still need someone to run the darn things.
yes,
I
but
would
that's
like
going
to
to become a limited skill set.
sure. I would like to hear Brent's, thoughts on
Yeah,
all
I
of
was just
these
about to say
things
we haven't heard from Brent. We've been over
yeah,
here
I've
just
been
smashing into each
rambling.
other.
I'm continuing to hit on these things. I'm
Yeah.
continuing to hit on very non-negative themes here. Maybe Brent will balance me a little
Okay,
bit. Maybe not.
before Brent goes, I'm not saying negative or positive. I'm simply making an argument for the potentiality of this becoming real.
Yeah. Hey,
Um,
no, I like it. Hey,
that's
I
it.
I feel
I
it.
quite honestly, the things that I've read and seen on the statistics that I've pulled up is that overall tech is still a really great field to go into, and by far
Yeah.
it has the most percentage growth projected over the next 5 to 10 years.
I
So,
want I want to talk about that. I want to talk about cybersec growth in the next few
well,
years
that's
also.
one of the areas that it's mentioning is tech skills, AI, connectivity in general, and security.
Yeah.
Like those broad spectrums have a lot of potential growth. So,
All right. I'm just
anyway,
gonna plug it real quick that from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, all total occupations are expected to grow 3% until between 2022 and 2032. Computer based occupations, that's so I'm sure that's
yeah,
really
yeah,
defined
that's
somewhere. I
yeah,
don't have it. I interpret that as IT based,
yeah,
occupations. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sorry I did not read as thoroughly as I did. They said it's growing at 14%.
sure.
Information security analyst, which is what I got back when I requested cybersecurity jobs, is projected to grow at 32%. So I'm just going to take a moment and once again plug cybersecurity. Hey, it's a great field to get into. There's some great things here, like a ton of projected job growth. B, it does pretty well in the pay as well. I think that the median pay for IT sec was still over six figures, around 112K for May 2022, and it's a growing field. All right.
Matt, you missed your calling as
Yeah.
a recruiter.
Yeah, I should have been like a cyber.
Cybersecurity recruiter.
Hey, look, it's not it's not over yet. Somebody, I don't know, maybe the government could pick me up and could send me around the country to high schools and tell people to get into cybersecurity. Why? Because there's money there, and by golly, your country needs you.
I just imagine Matt with like the classic beige trench coat and a fedora hat or a bowler hat, and be like, "Kids, you know that we are under attack at all times. We must have cybersecurity individuals." I just,
Oh my lord.
And I guess I sound like John F. Kennedy in your mind.
sorry, I don't know
as
why I
well.
defaulted to
No, that's fine. No, I'm good.
JFK
I'm
voice.
good with it. I want to sound that good. That guy apparently was a great orator, so much so that he was able to get elected. So, if I can orate like that, then, I can get people to go into cybersecurity, which are
All right,
nine people our
we've
country
stepped over
desperately
Brent.
needs.
we've we've stepped over Brent so much.
I
Brent,
was gonna say no,
all right,
no,
Brent.
you're fine.
How are you on
So-
cybersecurity and AI, or on AI on the cybersecurity job market, or
I
maybe
was gonna
other
say
tech job markets?
the statistics that you shared though about the cybersecurity market growing. Anybody that's been following us and pretty religiously listening to our episodes, you will have heard us bring that up many times
It's a
over
recurring theme for sure at this point.
over the years. Yeah, and I mean, it hasn't changed, so that should tell you something. Like, it's one
grown,
thing if you hear one
actually.
episode. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's one thing if you hear us say, "Oh yeah, cybersecurity market's growing, you should get into it," and then we never mentioned it again. We've mentioned this multiple times over the course of many months, and it's still trending that way. And the proof is in the pudding. Like that is, if you're looking for a very niche is the wrong word, but if you're looking at a very granular side of the IT industry, that is probably, and you're fresh to it, or maybe not. Maybe you're not fresh to it. You just want to change what you're doing, stay in the industry, but kind of do something new. And yeah, for sure, that is, you're constantly seeing job listings for that. It's just absolutely incredible. And I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. And I don't see AI, back to the original conversation that you guys wanted me to speak on a little bit. I don't see AI wholly replacing that. I do see it used in much the same way that Matt and I are using it now, and Deshaun too, I'm sure, where it's supplemental. It's a tool. It's an assistant. However you want to phrase that. In Matt's example, where we were talking about an incident, maybe with an EDR tool or some type of antivirus or whatever, sort of security tool, security stack, in some type of incident where it's able to parse that data and kind of draw a conclusion on it. There's multiple layers to that. I think that the parsing part is certainly useful, but I mean, you could even take it another layer, which you guys didn't really discuss, of like, because you were saying like, okay, hey, give me this data, and now I make that judgment call. But there's already tools on the market that are parsing the data and then making the judgment call itself, because it's gonna always be faster than us. Like, we have to take it and we have to look at it and we have to digest that information, even if it is being spoon fed to us with some type of AI tool or a parsing tool. So even that element, I think the understanding or the thought is, well, in the worst case scenario, we will have stopped traffic to something, or we have shut down a process, or we have kept something from writing to the registry, whatever, any number of incidents that could take place. That is way more, that's way less detrimental than if the attack was actually legitimate, and the damage that could do. Like, okay, we shut down services by mistake for 20 minutes, whatever, and it wasn't actually an attack. Well, at least the tool is, it's acting on knowledge. It's acting on behavior that it sees. And this is all stuff, man, that I feel like up until very recently, we didn't really have a good grasp on at all. Like, I think that market, the security market especially, has gone from a very flat file, malicious injections and stuff sort of perspective to a multi-layer, behavioral approach of
rapidly too.
Right. Yeah. Very rapidly. This file should not be writing to that file. These things should not be talking to those things, so on and so forth.
Can I talk
It's more
about
that side of it.
a little
Yeah,
bit
absolutely.
more
Yeah.
for just a second? So, I've had some interesting conversations, over the past couple years about when do you get concerned when you have a virus alert, right? And I want to preface all of this with saying that, I would very rarely tell somebody to tone down their security posture. So if you hear what I'm saying and go, "Ooh, Matt's saying tone down my security posture," probably not. If you think I'm saying that, come talk to
Matt?
me. Maybe I need to
Never.
crank up mine, right? So
Never.
yeah, never. So for the record, if you hear me say this next like snippet, you think I'm wiling, come talk to me so I can get right, basically, is how I'd put it. So anyways, here we go. So single file alerts don't really seem to be that interesting to people who see, the stuff day in and day out. They just don't, find a file, AV found a file. Congratulations. Yippee, rotate creds, run an AV scan, move on with your life. It seems like what people who are really, really in the weeds on this stuff, who are doing this day in and day out, who are making their living, what they want to see is they want to see multiple things happening. They want to see multiple things down what's called the kill chain, the cybersecurity kill chain. I should remember to go get a link for that. And they're probably going to see multiple things. They're looking for multiple things on the MITRE attack matrix. And what that is that's put out by the MITRE organization. And it basically is a way to break up how how different stages of an attack can like occur. You don't need to hit every single one of the stages through there, but some of them probably going to happen. You're probably going to have an initial access situation occur at some point in time. And unless they initial access onto your crown jewels, you're probably going to have some sort of lateral movement occur. And that's an example of the MITRE attack matrix and how they break that up. I will also put that in the show notes. I guess it's called the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Sorry about that. Anyways, what the big brains are doing out there, as I understand it, is that they're looking for like the traversal down the down the kill chain or across the attack framework, and they're looking to see what types of things occur there for really identifying what is and isn't a threat. And as long as you don't see progression down the chain, then theoretically, I guess, threat is somewhere between not executed and not actually a threat. I don't know. Just my like two cents on that situation.
Yeah, it took me a little while, being in my industry. It did take me, well, I say a little while being like a week, but to readjust to a solution when we're talking about security stack once again, a solution that is once again looking at flat file stuff and then moving to a solution that is based on that MITRE framework, where it's all tactic and technique based, and you're looking at, okay, well, what was the indicator of attack, and what was the technique used, and what was it, what did it seem like it was trying to do? It did take an adjustment period for sure, because it is a whole different way of looking at it. And it's just, I don't know, it's wild that that's the direction we've gone, because, and mainly, I mean, it's the reason we've gone that way is because that's what these malicious actors are doing now. It's not about that singular file anymore. It's about what are they making all these things doing? A lot of these tools, including some of the ones that I use, in often cases, you can have a known malicious file setting on a drive, and it's not going to initially do anything with it. It's only if that thing goes live and starts spinning off processes where it starts eating it up, which is a complete contrast. It's on the other side of the universe compared to your old AV scanners and stuff like that are looking for known hashes, known file names, known file types and stuff like that, and then just automatically quarantining them and stuff like that. Like they were essentially, in comparison, they're dumb. They're based on a database that's being managed by a human somewhere along the line, and there's a lot of false positives. I mean, anybody listening that's in the IT industry and has dealt with any sort of AV that's not AV or not AI driven now, especially to some extent, having to open things up, whitelist things because it's eating up a bunch of legitimate stuff, bailing stuff out of quarantine because it thought that this was a bad file and it really wasn't. And then, to make matters worse, you've got some of those solutions where they do, it's getting all these false positives, and then the actual attack actually gets through. And the whole reason you had the solution, it didn't even function as intended. So I don't know. We've come a long ways, I think. I think AI, back to that conversation, I know this is we've gone off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I say a little bit, kind of a big tangent, but it's pertinent to some extent.
Man, it matters though. I know. So like it's a very like pointed example, but I feel like you can take this example and replicate it throughout a lot of the industry.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And take an example of where you're like, well, you had basically a human resource unit, a person, however you want to phrase that, and then a tool set. And then, by leveraging that tool set, it's changing the way that, that the human interacts with the business. It's changing the business strategies, right? Because what does that mean for the business? Well, the business, I mean, like these are real world impacts. Well, maybe now you're replacing less computers in your fleet and taking it back to the job market. Maybe because you're replacing less computers in your fleet, you need one less hardware engineer to sit there and churn computers out, right? So did AI take that job? Because now you've moved to this, XDR format of incident response instead of, AV based incident responses. The XDR stuff's not going to fire very well without the AI because there's just too much noise. So, Was a job taken there? I don't know. Maybe. It's hard. It's hard to say. I'll tell you this: if you don't have something like that in place, you're just, to some degree, maybe you should consider thinking about, are you wasting business resources? And maybe instead of saying, did I take an AI job? Maybe it's an IT job and replace it with AI. Maybe it's, I did take an IT job and replace it with AI, but now I can hire another worker bee in some other component of my company. And maybe I created a job also. So,
Yeah, just on the other end of the spectrum. Yep, exactly.
man, just food for thought. The point is,
And
that
this is why
it's
I'm more
very,
leaning towards
like,
it's
flexible.
shifting. It's
so shifty,
shifting.
man. It's
It's not
very,
concrete. You can't say
it's so
definitively that it's going to
complicated.
steal jobs. It's simply going to shift it differently because of productivity and what can be done, right?
No,
I think alluding to the point where you said that, when I use AI, I ended up cutting out, 25%, just throwing that statistic back out there of my work that needed to be done. So now you're freeing up that other 25% to be more productive. Well, you can do that same thing and it can translate into other areas. So like you're saying, I think it's more of it's hard to say it's completely taking jobs because it may end up providing more opportunity in other areas based on how much productivity is being gained from the AI being implemented into the business.
I, I think maybe even a more pertinent question is, how will, and I want to be clear, I do not think this is in the scope of this podcast, but I do think it is an interesting question, is how will AI affect wealth generation and distribution throughout our society and others? Because we will most likely see a change. I imagine that, other things like, say, the printing press created some changes in distribution, that or the industrial revolution created some changes in wealth distribution. I think that we will see something like that here. Once again, not necessarily fully in scope here, just interesting food for thought as we're kind of closing up the conversation.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
I
those
agree.
things have been taking jobs for
Yeah.
hundreds of years. That those
Who-
sort of
who-
iterations and
yeah,
whatnot.
who's mad at the
Mhm.
printing press now?
Yeah, why it's all it's done is it's shifted the human element elsewhere. Someone's
Right.
still got to run the machine. Someone still has to program the machine. Someone still
Somebody
has
has to
to
write it.
yeah, someone has to write it. And these AI models are still going to have to be maintained and iterated upon. And
Mhm.
while I do believe at some point there will be AI writing AI,
Heck yeah. Heck yes.
right. I think there will
Absolutely.
always be that human element to keep it in check. But
Self-replication.
yeah. It
It's,
sounds terrible, doesn't it?
bro, it's so, like, I think that that's available right now. Right now, I have already in my test beds created a situation where AIs can write program files to my hard drive and then launch them. There's no reason I couldn't create, with, time and effort, a loop that, like, basically spawns AIs and gives them, jobs from a list on a CSV or something, right? Why
Matt,
not?
you're part of the problem.
Nah, man, no. So this is something I was talking about. So at the very beginning, I said I would talk about how I feel like what I'm doing is going to prepare me to remain future proofed, right? So I guess I said I would talk about, I want to, for just a moment. So I'm toying with all this AI stuff, and what I personally perceive is that this AI is like, these AI and like GPTs and stuff like that. This is basically the new calculator, the new web, right? We're seeing the very early days. It's amazing because everybody can have a front row seat because of the access to the internet. Not everybody, but a lot of the world gets a front row seat to generative AI taking off that you didn't get to see with something like the printing press. You saw it when it hit you, and you're like, oh my gosh, suddenly I'm getting leaflets and newsletters. Everybody can see the AI thing taking off.
Books
Now,
for the
again,
common
not
public.
everybody.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. But this is happening really quick in my personal opinion. When I look at my job in 5 years, I think understanding something like prompt engineering and what chain prompting is really important, right? Like, it's going to be challenging to execute my job without leveraging AI and remain competitive. And I don't just mean competitive against my peers. I am in cybersecurity. I have a very dreary view that I am basically in a long-term war with people who, want to ruin my business or, country or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? There's people out there, they want to make lives harder for those around me. And, I'm in the business of making sure that their lives are not, made harder basically. And those people are definitely going to use these things. And so I need to know how to use them too. And, I think that wherever I go next, if I go somewhere next, if I don't stick around, but whatever I do, over the next few years, like I've seen huge improvements in the use of my time and the extension of my capabilities. Here's a great example. I want to send educational newsletters. I haven't had a lot of formal training about educating other people. You know what? ChatGPT is a lot better at that than I am. So I can ask it about education, methods and what's the most effective and this, that, and the other thing, and have it write little like blurbs and newsletters for me. And guess what? Sometimes they're better than what I can do. They can also draw better pictures than I can. I'm not an artist, but there's been at least once or twice where I've been like, draw me this type of picture to really send a point home, for the people who I'm sending this, that, the other thing to. And, you know, I'm doing these like I'm doing all this tinkering and stuff so I can do that so I can be familiar with the tools because I want to know how to use the next calculator, the next web browser, the next smartphone um because I think that's, I
I
think it's
think
really
part of
important.
my struggle with it is there's a large part of the populace that isn't going to use it that way, and it's going to become a very large crutch at some point,
What do
just
you
like
mean a
everything else.
crutch?
Well, I mean, when you stack, there's
Is
plenty of
Google a crutch? Like
yes.
a search engine's a crutch? Like what do you gotta do? You gotta memorize, Britannica?
Well, what I'm saying is, we discussed this before, is using it in the proper way to educate yourself and make you more to refine and hone yourself rather than it be a consumption tool. Or, I mean, think about how we use phones now. I mean, we've had computers for decades and decades, and on average, the general person doesn't use it in the way that is probably best. And so I'm concerned that that might propagate further along.
I don't
Have
know. That sounds
you
really subjective, bro.
I mean, that's fair, but how many sci-fi novels have you read where society becomes consumed? I mean, you can see it in Wall-E with the fact that things are done for them and they become unable to do things for themselves, right? Look, I'm a cynic at heart, so don't listen to me.
Look, man, look, a computer's gonna do plenty of calculus that I was never gonna learn how to do by myself. On the other hand, I can also still do basic math. Like I've had access to a calculator my whole life that could do both calculus and basic math. I expect humans will, float to wherever they need to float to survive. If that makes sense. I need basic math to survive in my daily life. Guess what? I'm not figuring out the surface area of, awkwardly shaped objects very often.
Well, okay, but all right, we're starting to divulge into a whole separate kind of
Yeah, I'm
conversation.
sorry.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
leave it there. As far as the job market, we didn't really get to the meat and potatoes of what I was going after, but I think the job market's fine. I think we're just seeing corrections, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's some shift in viewpoints for companies and how they want to function as a whole. I think part of it's post-pandemic. I think some other things are contributing. But as far as technology is concerned,
Job market's
the
fine
growth
for tech people in tech, as
it's
far as I
so
can tell.
far above what the percentage of growth for other markets that I don't really see there being a big issue. I think that's the point I wanted to drive home is that is it more competitive? Maybe. Is it more Is it somewhat concerning because of economic things? Always, right? There's never a point that isn't the case. There's always fluctuations. But I think overall, it's a good place to be if you're in the tech industry. Final thoughts from both of you?
For me, no. I think I'm in agreement. I think right now we're okay. Mind you, with the way the industry's going, we could be saying something totally different here in 5 years.
Oh, sure.
Who knows? 2
right
years. I don't know. Yeah, I mean the market could change very quickly. AI is progressing very quickly. We still haven't really seen a lot of real world scenarios where AI is being mixed with the physical aspect of things. I think that brings on a whole other conversation. When you start moving some of these droids that we've been developing for years and whatnot, you start integrating AI with those, and now they are a physical, being of some sort.
Entity.
Where's
physical
my
entity.
Where's ChatGPT Barbie, bro? How
Right.
far away from that?
Right. Yeah.
Already in production.
Well, look at all of the look at all of the dating AI. I mean, you're replacing human interaction with like AI, generative AI that is based on a select subset of preferences for humans and interaction. Look, I'm not trying to get gross. I'm just telling you that's already out there. It's an app you can go into the Play Store and go get.
I know. It's wild.
So anyway, Matt, final thoughts.
Job market's not so bad in my opinion, for people who are in tech. I know there's been some layoffs, but I think overall it's not so bad. I have a buddy who recently, went through a hard time and lost their job, and took them a few days to get interviews. They're a programmer with a few years of experience, and they're getting reasonable interviews for reasonable pay, stuff like that. And so yeah, I think there's something there. I do think there's something about AI and the job market. I think I think it's really more of a shift than
I agree.
the job market is going about its AI journey right now, and you're going to see some shifts out there as it goes about its journey, and we're all just going to go along with it.
There's nothing to do at this point. The
box
is open.
my 2 cents are, if you're okay, look, if you're in IT security, you're worried about job and you're worried about your job. My recommendation is, if you're really worried, go get some certifications, because that will help you get a new job faster. If you're only kind of worried, then up your skill set through some personal hobbies. If you're just beginning, I recommend stuff like take advantage of the free Azure credits and go get yourself rolling with some Azure stuff. If you're a little more advanced, go pick up a program and how to do some of that stuff. Go start working on a programming language like PowerShell or Python. If you're I guess I would say if you've already done all of that stuff, then do what I do and work on the AI stuff. I think it's cool and it's kind of fun. And if nothing else, it's a talking point.
Fair enough. Awesome. Well, if you made it this far, thanks. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
sincerely.
we do.
Yep.
And we are going to wrap up the episode here. I think it was a good conversation, but we'd love to hear from you. Seriously, come to the Discord, hit us up, tell us that we're crackpots and we don't know what we're talking about, or agree with us. Either way, we just want to have conversation, really, because this is a thing of love for us, and we hope that it's beneficial for you. So, once again, thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
Thanks, folks.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Ascent podcast. Check us out at digitalascent.tech and join us on Discord. Until next time, take care.